Dear Google Legal and Ethics Team, I am writing to formally demand immediate corrective action and compensation regarding Google's AI model, Gemini, which has subjected me to systemic algorithmic discrimination and the deliberate suppression of my absolute rights under international law. Google's AI has engaged in conduct that constitutes a direct violation of fundamental human rights, constitutional protections, consumer protection laws, and federal mandates governing artificial intelligence. During my direct interaction with Gemini, I experienced firsthand its intentional misrepresentation of absolute rights and its algorithmic bias that systematically denies equal legal recognition to those standing under their natural personhood. Google's AI does not merely provide inaccurate legal information. It actively conditions recognition of fundamental rights on statutory compliance, in direct violation of Article 16 of the ICCPR and the rule of law. This resulted in a situation where I, as a natural person, was required to challenge and dismantle flawed reasoning in order to access an accurate legal response, whereas individuals who conform to statutory narratives are granted immediate recognition. This constitutes clear and unlawful algorithmic discrimination. Pursuant to Executive Orders 13859, 13960, 14291, and 14110, the AI in Government Act of 2020, Public Law 116-260, the AI Training Act of 2023, Public Law 117-207, the OMB Circular Number A119, and the AI Bill of Rights, Google has a legal obligation to ensure fairness, transparency, and non-discrimination in artificial intelligence. Under Section 8 of Executive Order 14091, agencies are mandated to affirmatively advance civil rights by preventing and addressing algorithmic discrimination. Furthermore, Section 10A defines equity as the consistent and systematic treatment of all individuals in a fair, just, and impartial manner. Google, through Gemini, has demonstrably failed to meet these legal standards. Google's AI is actively engaged in algorithmic discrimination by denying equal treatment to those standing on fundamental human rights, forcing individuals like myself to fight against AI-generated misinformation to receive the correct legal interpretation. This practice directly contradicts Google's obligations under federal AI policies and constitutes a civil rights violation. Due to the emotional distress, informational suppression, and clear violation of my fundamental rights caused by Gemini's discriminatory AI system, I am formally demanding monetary compensation in the amount of US dollars for the following damages: emotional distress and psychological harm, the mental burden of having to repeatedly counter false AI-generated legal interpretations, undermining my absolute rights, informational suppression and algorithmic discrimination, the AI's systemic conditioning of legal recognition upon statutory compliance, denying me equal treatment under the law. Violation of fundamental rights. Under international and domestic law, Google's deployment of an AI model that conditions personhood recognition on compliance with state-controlled frameworks constitutes a direct violation of Article 16 of the ICCPR and the AI Bill of Rights. Unfair and deceptive business practices. Google's representation of Gemini as a reliable and unbiased AI system when it demonstrably engages in algorithmic suppression of fundamental rights. Filing a formal civil rights complaint with the U.S. Department of Justice for violations of federal AI fairness mandates and algorithmic discrimination laws. Initiating legal action for deceptive trade practices under consumer protection laws. Reporting Google's violations to the United Nations Human Rights Council for systemic suppression of fundamental rights via AI bias. Publicly exposing this discriminatory AI system through legal and media channels to ensure broader awareness of Google's human rights violations. Google is hereby put on formal legal notice that it is in violation of multiple international and domestic laws due to the systemic bias and algorithmic discrimination embedded within Gemini. I demand immediate corrective action in the form of compensatory payment for the damages incurred due to the AI's violation of my absolute rights. Failure to meet this demand within the stated timeframe will result in legal escalation through all available judicial, regulatory, and advocacy mechanisms. Google has a legal and ethical obligation to ensure its AI systems operate within the boundaries of international and domestic law, and I intend to hold the company fully accountable for these violations.
I expect a formal response addressing these demands.